Hello, everybody. This is Jess from 3D Learning Experts, and you're listening to the LD Experts Podcast, the show for busy parents who want to help their kids with learning disabilities, or as I like to say, learning differences, go from surviving to thriving. Welcome, everyone. Today is Dyslexia Awareness Month, and we have the pleasure of interviewing Julie Lachtay, who is dyslexic, and she's going to talk to us about her journey as a dyslexic person. Welcome, Julie.
Welcome. Thank you for getting my name right.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's very important to me to correctly pronounce people's names. So we actually met on Facebook, and you are a dyslexic adult who posted something about dyslexia, and I thought it was so awesome. And so I'm so excited to be able to have you here today to share your journey as a dyslexic person, because what I find is so often parents who are not dyslexic are concerned that their kids will not be successful. And that is so not true. So let's get started. How old were you when you found out you were dyslexic?
I was 41 and barely scraping through my first year of university.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So weirdly, when I was at school, and I went to school in England, and so when I was at school, you were put into streams depending on how intelligent you were deemed to be. And there was an A stream and a B stream, and you went from 1 to 5. So if you were A1, you were a genius. If you were B5, you were just ignored. Oh. And essentially, your whole life depends on how good you were at maths. And I was not good at maths. I can still not do maths. So I was put in essentially like the A sort of 4 or 5 stream for everything. And then luckily I had teachers that realized that actually I was far from stupid. I was really good at English, weirdly, not knowing I was dyslexic. Always loved writing. I was good with languages. You know, I did everything well except maths and sciences, which were just, and like the only way I got through maths in high school was that I was very fortunate that my best friend's dad was my maths teacher. He was the most patient man in the world. But I still, like, every maths homework session, I was just in a ball sobbing. I'm like, I don't understand it. It just means nothing. I don't understand it.
So that sounds like you have dyscalculia.
I have dyscalculia and dyslexia and dyspraxia. I got all the good stuff.
Okay. Okay.
All the disabilities. And yeah, so I pretty much went through school in that whole space of what's wrong with me? Why am I stupid? Why can't I do that? Why is it so easy for everyone else? You know, I can't do anything, so I can't get a real job. Got a job in a nursery school, worked with children for many, many years, mainly looked after babies because I'd look after older kids, and they'd say, oh, can you help the 6-year-old with their maths homework? No, because I don't understand it. Like, no, I really can't. And then in my late 30s, I worked for a particularly lovely family. The mum was a very successful career woman. At one point, she said to me, like, you're amazing at this, but why are you doing it? You could do anything. And I was like, no, I can't, because I'm really bad at this, and I can't do this, and I can't do this. And she said, no, really? She's like, I really think you should go to university. And I was like, yeah, right. And then there was like an open day, and one of the universities near me was doing sort of like foundation tests that you could do. And you sort of did this 3-month course, and you wrote various things, and you could get a place in university. And I was like, great, I've cracked it. Because I didn't know I was dyslexic. I really never had problems reading or writing. And then I really wanted to study psychology. So I started doing that. And I don't know if you know this, not because I didn't, but psychology is all based on statistics, and it's all numbers. And it was just horrendous. Like, I sat there through every lecture just going, And they go, but you put it all in a computer. And I'm like, but all the numbers look the same, and I don't know what to do with them. And they'd like give you like a set of numbers like this and say, write a 1,500 word essay on what this means to you. And I'd be like, it means nothing. I don't understand what's going on. And I was literally barely scraping through every section of my degree. And I went to stay with a friend of mine who was what we used to refer to as a special needs teacher. And while I was staying with her, she said, you know what? I think you have learning disabilities. I was like, no, I don't. I got really defensive. I don't have any disabilities. And she said, no, really? So I want you to do these tests that I give my children. And then she said, actually, now I think about it, you can never add up a bill, can you? I was like, no. And she said, and like when we're out in Starbucks, you never know what cup fits your drink or anything, do you? And I'm like, no. And she's like, and you can't get dressed without sitting down. I'm like, are you just picking on me for fun now? And she's like, no, I really think you have these things. Go back to university, tell them that you need to be tested. And I had to fight to get tested. They were like, this test costs £500. And at the time I was also working. I was like, well, fine, test me. And if there's nothing wrong, I'll pay you back the money. And then they did my tests. And I was so shocked when they said I had dyslexia. I'm like, but I could read. Like generally at 7, I was reading books written for 13 and 14-year-olds. I didn't realize that whole thing at all. I'm still not sure how that works.
So how's your spelling?
My spelling was much better when I was younger. Weirdly, as I've got older, it's gone a bit wobbly. I think also because we have like spell checks and things now, and as an English person, when all software does American spelling, that really messes with us.
Oh,
because this word is spelled wrong. Like, no, it's not. That's how we spell it.
Yeah. So I thought you could set it for your type of.
But if you forget, that's very confusing. What I learned later was that actually, because as most dyslexic people know, we're very good at creating solutions and filling in gaps in our knowledge automatically. So what I was told when it comes to reading is that I might actually only understand 40% of what I read, but I'm very quickly able to fill in the gaps and make sense of the whole thing in its entirety.
Interesting.
When dyspraxia and dyscalculia explained to me, I was like, oh, my life makes so much more sense now. But it was really from one extreme to the other. So it came to sort of reading and comprehension. I was sort of in the top 1% or the top 5% of university students. But when it comes to seeing patterns and problem solving and anything to do with numbers, I was in like the bottom 5% of the general population. Like I was literally tested as having the numeracy of an average 7-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So did you graduate from the university?
I swapped degrees out of something that was all based on statistics. I shifted into a degree in international development and third world studies. And I graduated with first class honours with the highest mark in my school when I graduated.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, but I did get accommodations at university. So things like, because I'm not great with structure. So I'll read a whole thing of things and people go, you've mentioned like 20 topics here. I think, no, I haven't. So things like I don't know if it's the same in America, but in England, all coursework at university is submitted anonymously. So there can't be any favourites or there can't be a teacher going, I don't like her, she's going to fail.
No, they don't do that in America.
Well, that's shocking. No, it's all submitted anonymously. And we were just given sheets that you attach to your coursework that says, this person has dyslexia, so be aware of this and this. So I would be graded on content and knowledge and not necessarily lose points for structure and grammar and things like that. But like you said, you find accommodations and ways around it. So when I was writing my dissertation, which was a comparable analysis of HIV policy in Cuba and Ghana, because I wasn't realizing where I'd flipped from one or the other all over the place. So what I started to do was use different color ink when I was writing, not when I was submitting. So I would write my essays in certain ink and then I'd put them back together. And if it then went like pink, green, pink, green, pink, green, blue, I think, there's something wrong there. I need to switch it all around. And I would write it on Post-its and physically like write my essay on the floor and rearrange it all until it was all like pink, 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 blue, blue, blue.
Wow, that's a great.
I wrote my entire dissertation by hand, like that, on Post-it notes and big bits of paper and moving them around. And then only when it was right, typed it up and submitted it.
Wow. Well, that's great. You have definitely found workarounds, which dyslexic people very often do that.
We're really good at.
Yeah. Will you share what dyspraxia is? I know what it is, but a lot of people don't.
So I can only share what I know because as anyone, if you have dyslexia, it can be different for like many different people. And because I'm blessed with all three, I'm not always sure what traits come from which. Essentially, how dyspraxia shows up for me is that I have almost no coordination. I don't judge distance or space very well. If you were to see me, I always have bruises here because I walk into doorways all the time. I have bruises on my hips because I walk past furniture. I've broken both my big toes twice by falling over chairs and objects. I literally, like anything that involves lifting my foot off the floor, and I don't mean doing like acrobatics, I have to sit down to put on like flip-flops, shoes, socks, underwear, trousers, or I will fall over if I lift one leg up because I have no balance.
Wow.
I was actually wearing quite wide leg trousers the other week and I managed to get my foot stuck in the other trouser leg and fall over.
Oh.
I was like, I actually just tripped I fell over my own trousers. Yeah, like I was saying earlier with the cups and things, if I'm cooking, I can't say, oh, this pot fits with this lid. It's always like, not this one, not this one, not this one. Directions. A 5-year-old once said to me, but Julie, it's left for left, which changed my life because I still go left because that hand can't make a rough for right. So it's the left for left.
So that only works if you don't have reversal issues, because I did that with many people, but my youngest son had major reversal issues. So that didn't work for him because he never could remember which way the L was supposed to go.
Oh, yeah. But interesting you talk about reversal. I have that with like directions. And that's really, like, even when I say it to people, I think that sounds like I'm talking nonsense, like I'm trying to get out of something. So if you gave me directions from my house to yours, if we were living considerably closer, so I could follow those directions to your house, maybe. but I would probably then need new directions to get back. I can't necessarily flip them.
Oh, okay.
Just because I've been somewhere, I can't get back. And I often have, you know how people talk about object permanence and that? I almost have that with locations. So like, I will just point blank not know where something is. And for example, when I lived in London, probably 2 or 3 times a week, I would meet my best friends at Covent Garden Station, and there's a Tesco just next door. And at least once a week, I would walk out of the station and go, I literally have to my friend to go, I'm at the station, where's Tesco? And he'd be like, turn around. And I'd literally stand here going, I don't know where I am, I'm completely lost. I don't know what's going on. Oh, look, I know exactly where I am now.
Oh, wow.
And it can literally be that, like, and I find there are parts of journeys that I just kind of seem to like wipe out in my brain. So like I can take the bus every day for months. And there's always a part of the journey where I'm like, where am I? I don't recognize this. Am I in the wrong place? Do I get off here? Am I on the right bus? And then like 100 yards down the road, I go, oh no, I know where I am. And that
so do you drive?
No. And again, I had about 1,000 driving lessons that I failed and tests before I found out I had dyspraxia. And then when that was explained to me, again, I was like, oh, that made much more sense, because I didn't have any problems with learning to drive the car as such, just that there were other people driving cars around me. And this was the problem, because it's that not judging distance thing. So if you're coming towards me, I don't know if you're about to hit me head on, or if you're like 3 foot to my right, I can't, there's none of that. That doesn't happen for me. So no, never learned to drive.
So
if you're pushing a buggy or a cart around the supermarket, you'd be very grateful for that.
Have you always lived someplace where driving is unnecessary?
I think in England, it's not a big deal like it is in America and in the States. So, I mean, it's never, I mean, personally, it annoys me because I feel like I would have so much more freedom if I could drive, but I've never found it's like a massive hindrance.
Well, and you said before we started this interview that you have lived in different countries. Were those also countries where you did not need to drive?
No. And then, I mean, to be honest, as you know, in England, we drive and walk on the opposite road to everyone else, on the opposite side. So Thailand's the only place I've ever been where I don't walk out in front of cars on my first day and nearly get killed. So it takes me a while to walk and cross roads without getting run over. So I don't think I'd want to attempt to drive in another country. But no, I mean, I've mainly travelled in third world countries and in Asia, and there's always really easy public transport. It's often manic and terrifying, but it's always easy. Like when I lived in Vietnam, I just got motorbikes everywhere.
And you were comfortable driving a motorbike?
Sitting on the back of one. No.
It's like a taxi?
Yeah.
Oh.
I did have a motorbike in Thailand, and after the 3rd time I fell off in a week and went to the hospital, the doctor told me if I didn't stop driving one, they weren't going to treat me anymore. Because, well, see, I will share this with you because for your audience, this will make sense. Most people without dyspraxia and dyslexia would realise that if you need to like stop in traffic or whatever, in order to not fall over, you put your feet down on the floor. No one told me this, so I didn't know. So I would just sit at traffic lights with my feet on the pedals, like for as long as I possibly could, and then I'd go and land on the floor.
Oh.
And it was only afterwards someone said, why don't you just put your feet down? Like, no one ever told me that. Like, although the reading writing aspect of dyslexia confused me that I had it, what did make sense is that I was told, and one of the traits with dyslexia people is that you tend to take things very, very literally. And like a great example of this, and people used to tease me all the time, in England, we tend to sign 6-month contracts when we're renting. I moved every 6 months for 10 years. I had the same landlord for 4 years. I'd move out of one house and into another and into another and into another. And it was only after I realised that I would take everything literally because I'm dyslexic, I was like, no one ever told me I could extend that contract. I was like, people always tease me and said, why'd you move every 6 months? No one ever said, don't you know you could extend your contract?
So I take things very literally as well, but I thought that was autism, not dyslexia.
Apparently it's a very dyslexic trait. And the other thing I was told that really made sense to me, because as a nanny, I spent most of my life working with children. I'm really sensitive to noise. And for a long time, I basically just thought I was a miserable, grumpy old mare. But again, I was told a lot of people with dyslexia and dyspraxia, the way it was explained to me is that we tend to feel noise where other people just hear it. So for me, really loud noises and certain noises are like truly painful. And like things like really loud, like drum and bass music, anything that goes like boom, boom, boom. It's literally, I just want to curl up in a ball and cry because it physically causes me pain. And there's other music that just makes me really anxious and I don't suffer from anxiety. And then when I learned about sound healing, I was like, well, that makes so much sense, because if certain pitches and frequencies can heal us and make us feel calm, then it makes perfect sense that other music would have the opposite impact on us.
So if you knew about having dyslexia, dyspraxia, and dyscalculia when you were younger, do you think your life would have been different?
I think I would have been more confident in myself. I think I'm 55 now. So when I was at school, I don't think there was even any awareness of dyslexia and dyscalculia and things like this. We were just, and I find a lot of women my age had the same thing. We were just told that we were lazy, that we weren't focused, that you didn't try hard enough. And I think it's almost like shouting at a deaf person, like, if you get louder and louder, I'll understand it. Where actually, if you're not explaining something to me the way I understand it, you can repeat yourself, and it's not going to make any difference.
Absolutely.
I think had I understood that there were reasons why, like if I was literally told there were parts of your brain that work differently, I think I would have felt far more confident in myself. Like, I find a lot of people get really upset when they're diagnosed, where for me it was like a revelation. I was like, okay, now I understand it. Like, now I can stop fighting it. Now I'm going to stop apologizing because I can't do things because there's genuinely a reason. Doesn't matter how hard I try. My brain just doesn't work in certain things. And even when I was at uni, I ended up doing an economics module, which was a bit terrifying, but weirdly, there were very few numbers. But my economics professor would stand at the front of the class and he'd say, hello, everyone, how was your day? How are you? And then he would go, blah, 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 number, blah, 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 GDP, blah, 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 number. And I would sit there for an hour and a half and go, And he would say, is there anything anyone didn't understand? And I'd be like, and the whole class would just groan. And he'd be like, okay, Julie, where did I lose you? I said, and he said, hello, how are you? Yes. I'm like, kind of after that, it all went downhill. And then he would try and explain the same thing over and over again. People go, there, like at that tone, and now you understand it. I'd be like, and no, I don't, because you just said the same words. But then I had an incredible dissertation professor, and I would go and see him and say, oh, Massimo was trying to teach us this, and he went blah, 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 GDP, and he showed me a picture of a cake and a triangle, and I don't know what he's talking about. And my professor was so amazing. He was so good at seeing how people learn differently and how we have different understandings. And at the time, I was really into clothes and fashion. And he explained like the American mortgage crash that I can understand in economics in terms of how things go from haute couture to like mid-range shops to like bargain end shops. And in 10 minutes, I was like, okay, now I've got it. So yeah, I think I'd have been much more confident as a child, and rather than just sat there and been quiet and gone home and cried because I didn't understand. And when people just, oh, you can't do it, you're stupid, you need to concentrate, I think I wouldn't have taken it on, because that definitely had a really big impact.
Yes.
Always, in my family, I was the stupid one. Like, I got a first-class degree, I'm calling stupid. But like, I legit went to university essentially to prove that I wasn't stupid and I could do it.
Oh, well, that's great that you were able to prove them all wrong.
And you know what? This is the thing I really want to share with people that are worried about exam results and getting a degree and stuff. I got a first-class degree with honours. It makes me really happy. You know what? Like, out there in the world, no one cares. No one's ever asked me what grade I've got. I did what is apparently a very, very difficult and very complex subject. The only thing I've ever done with it is teach English to other nations, because you need a degree to do that. But yeah, honestly, I think all it proves is that you can be dedicated and committed to something. Years ago, when I was traveling in Africa, I met the most amazing guy who was raised in a commune, and he never learned to read or write. So he'd essentially left Australia because, he was told that, he was stupid, he couldn't get a job because he couldn't read or write. And he was the most incredible mechanic, because he had that magical disability that we have, where we're really creative and we can problem solve. And he could just look at any engine and just figure it out. So he had this amazing life in Africa, where we traveled across Africa backwards and forwards, like fixing people's trucks as they were traveling. But yeah, just because we all have those skills that we can bring when we're given the space to develop them and when we're able to learn differently. So I think, just because you're struggling with reading or writing, or like in my case, maths or whatever, doesn't mean that that's it and there's nothing you can do. And I actually looked up a statistic the other day, and if I find it, I'll share it with you. But I think it was like something like 30% of billionaires are dyslexic. So
Richard Branson is one of my favorite dyslexic people, and Einstein
was dyslexic, and apparently didn't speak until he was 7 or 8 years old.
I don't think he was a billionaire, though.
No, but
he was definitely a brilliant man. But yes, absolutely. I mean, Winston Churchill was dyslexic. Henry Ford, so many famous.
I shared a thing the other day. So many great writers like F. Scott Fitzgerald and Roald Dahl. They were dyslexic.
I'm not familiar with either of them, but
The Great Gatsby. Come on, you must know The Great Gatsby.
Okay, I've heard it. I've heard the name. Yes, but I'm
movie, if you don't want to read it, go watch the movie.
Okay, I'm a self-help reader. I read all, like, since I was a child. That is the only thing that I've ever really had any interest in reading is self-improvement. So I have never read a novel or anything like that. But yeah,
I don't think I've ever gone a day in my life literally without reading some kind of novel.
Really?
Yeah. But again, I have that thing where I get really confused. So I would literally, there'd be times I'd be reading a book at work and a book at home. And I get to some point and I think, hold on, what happened to this person? They've completely forgotten about that plot line. And then I think, oh no, that's the other book.
Oh, well, see, that's the nice thing about my self-improvement books is they all complement each other. So it's okay if I confuse who said what.
Unless you meet the author and go, I really love it when you said that thing about blah, blah, blah. Go,
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'll be meeting Napoleon Hill or I'm listening to Florence. I can't remember.
Scovel?
Yes, I'm listening to her right now, her books. So I won't be meeting her either, but perhaps Tolley, which I always forget his first name. That's my big dyslexic thing is I forget words that I want when I want them.
I find the more tired I get, and the closer it gets to the full moon as well, then I get,
So tell us all about what you're doing these days, and then talk about the full moon and the sound healing and all that, please.
I will, because I would love, like, this may be the part where everyone goes, oh no, she's crazy, we're off. So I'm an energy healer. I would like to prefix this with saying I was raised atheist and I didn't believe in anything. I was the most skeptical person in the world until my life took a very dark turn that we don't really need to go into right now because there's no point. And I discovered energy healing. And I remember going to a theta healing evening where this lady stood up and she talked about how we're all connected and we're all one and we're all spiritual, and how our bodies hold memories, and we have all these things called limiting beliefs, and we get these things from our ancestors and past lives. And I sat there thinking, I can't believe people are believing this stuff. This is like complete and utter rubbish and nonsense. And then she took us through the meditation to connect into theta, which is what I do as a theta healer. And then she started talking about all the things that she had seen people experience in past lives, and that she could see the way that some people had been killed in past lives. And I literally started to shake and my heart started pounding. And I was like, okay, there might be something to this. So I started getting theta healing, which like very quickly transformed my life. When I started getting it, I was extremely depressed. I was homeless and I had terrible anxiety, like couldn't get out of bed for days at a time. And that changed very quickly. And the healer I was working with said, I think you should train and you should do this. You'd be really good at it. And I went, no, I won't. I can't do that. That's it. And then it turned out that I can do it and I'm really good at it. But so the way theta healing works is that we have a lot of unconscious beliefs. And because they're unconscious, we're not aware of them, but they have a huge impact on our life. So, for example, if you've been told your whole life, you're stupid, you don't deserve to have this, you need to work harder, you can take those beliefs on and hold them really, really deeply, and they will stop you doing anything. Like, so if you, for example, as a child, if every time you tried to learn to do something, you failed and you got told off for it or you got punished, you might take on the belief that it's unsafe for me to learn new things. So every time you then try and go to learn something, your body and your soul, thinking it's protecting you, will do something to make you stop learning. So you might get a really bad headache and not be able to go to a lecture or something because you have that belief that it's not safe. If I try and learn that, someone's going to hurt me. So essentially what I do is I find what those beliefs are, because a lot of beliefs we have aren't even ours. They come from ancestors, from past lives. They come from people around us, but we take them on as our truth. And then we live from that perspective. So what I do is I can tune into my clients, go, this is the belief that you're holding. This is how it's been serving you up until now. Otherwise you wouldn't be holding on to it. And then I can release it and clear it. So what I focus on at the moment is working essentially with women who have what I refer to as disabilities, and the dis being a DYS. So it's a magical ability you have, not a disability. It's not something that you've been cursed with. It's not something that you need to hide from or not share with the world. So I genuinely believe that some of us had these incredible gifts and these different ways of doing things purely because we are the light that the world needs, that we get to put things out into the world that other people can't do because their brains are so like small and functional and rigid. And because we think so more creativity, we have so much more inside us that can shine out. So I work with women so they move out of that state of being embarrassed or ashamed of their differences or feeling like they need to apologize for them, to get them into that space where they're like proud of it and they celebrate it and they own it and share it. Because I really believe that like we dyslexic, we disability, we like essentially neurodivergent people, I think we can change the world. I think we're generally the future. And if we stop being labeled as you think differently, therefore you're wrong, I think, wow, you think really differently. How can I do that? What does that open up for us? And even like on LinkedIn now, they list dyslexic thinking as a skill because we are skilled. We're amazing. We see things that other people just don't do. And what I feel very strongly, and this is where a lot of people might go, oh, she's mad, but that's cool. You can work with it. Like as a healer, I genuinely believe that we all come from different places. So like in different star seeds and galaxies and stuff. So my gut feeling is that all of us that are all dyslexic, for example, or may have trouble spelling in a certain way or communicating in a certain way, it's because that's not how it's done here and now, but where we came from, that was the norm. That was that was where everyone did it. And we have just held on to that at a cellular level. And now in this world, it comes up as, oh, that's weird and that's different. And I think, but maybe that was woken up in us and maybe that stays with us because the world actually really needs what we have that other people don't. And the more we stand up and go, you know what? Yeah, I am different. I think differently, but look what I can do that you can't because of that. And I really believe that we all have different gifts and strengths and talents because we're meant to work together. We're meant to help each other. We're meant to live, far more connected than we are. And I think, if we were all meant to do everything, then we would all be able to do everything. So it's something I'm really passionate about, is getting people to see just how amazing we are. And it's a gift to have these abilities. It's not a curse. It's not a burden. Doesn't need to stop you doing something. I mean, yeah, sure, there are things you can't do, but there is no one in the world that can do everything.
Right.
Even neurotypicals, there are still things that they can't do. They're not superheroes. We're the superheroes. We have the superpowers that they don't. And I can give you a great example of this. I used to volunteer with this amazing charity in London. And at one point we were asked to brainstorm to do a fundraising event and how that would work. And because I was working in a charity that worked with people living with HIV, quite a lot of them were still gay men, so we would quite often focus on like gay bars and pubs in certain areas in London, and we were all sent off for half an hour to go and plan this, and everyone else went rushing off and they were like tapping on their keyboards and they were writing really big notes, and I was just sitting because I was thinking about it and working it out. And so I don't think in my fingers, I think in my head. If I was typing that out, I wouldn't do anything. And every few minutes, like, Julie, you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. We're doing this. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. And they'd look at me and go, but she's not doing anything. Like, she's just sitting there with a cup of coffee. And then we came back, there was maybe like 15 of us. And one person said, oh, I thought we could go here. And the other person said, well, I thought we could go here. And I'm like, well, that's a 40-minute walk, and I thought we could do this. And maybe we could do this. And they all stopped. And then they just, like, no one even spoke to me. And I went, I have something. And they went, oh, yes. I thought we could start here and go from here to here to here. And then this person's really connected to those persons. I think if we think to them, they'll set it up so we can go to this place. And this place opens later. So if we go there last. And I arranged the whole event in my head. And everyone just went, that's amazing. How did you do that? And I was like, because I sat quietly and thought about it. And after that, I was always the first person they came to organize all the events.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah. And it's funny because very often we don't realize that other people don't think like that. At least for me, that's the case. Like, my mom's coming to visit and we were supposed to have an area built for her before she arrives. Well, the person who was supposed to come and help is not coming after all. And so we may not have it ready. And she's like, well, I don't know if I should come for 10 days. I said, well, get yourself 2 plane tickets to go home, because if you get 2 plane tickets now, it will be cheaper than if you have to leave sooner last minute. And she's like, oh, that's so brilliant. I'm like thinking,
isn't it obvious?
Right, exactly. Because it's Southwest, and Southwest, you can cancel and get your money back. But if you do it last minute, they charge you an arm and a leg.
It's funny that you said that, because I'm going to London for the day on Wednesday, and like public transport here is so expensive. And especially because I've just come from living in Turkey for 3 years, like transport in London freaks me out. And I looked and I just did the same thing. I have a coach and a train booked to come back from London, depending on how long I want to be there. I mean, to put this into perspective with fares, the people I'm living with just paid £350 for flights to Mexico return. And to get a certain train to London, it was going to cost me £100 return.
Wow.
For the day.
Wow. Yeah. Well, typically this time of year, airfare is very reasonably priced. And I'm going to a conference the week after next, and it's very expensive, and I couldn't understand why. And on the news today, they said a lot more people are traveling and people are doing life experiences because of COVID. It has gotten people to want to get out and do things. My husband and I own a vacation rental property in Las Vegas, and typically Las Vegas before COVID, we wouldn't really have any guests from after Labor Day, which is the first Monday in September, until New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, we would during that time rent to traveling nurses because we wouldn't have any guests. And now we are booked out. We have guests already through December. So it's just incredible how much it's changed. But because of that, travel is very expensive. So,
and I love that you switched that to, we'll send it to traveling nurses. See, that's that out of the box thing people say that used to really freak me out.
Yeah.
Years before anyone says, I love the way you think. You think outside the box. I'm like, what is this box that you're thinking in and how does that work?
Yeah, that is so funny. I never thought of it that way. Like, why are they staying within this box?
But I don't understand the box. And like when I'll have a train of thought and someone will go to me, how did you get from there to there to there to there to there? And I'll go, I didn't. I got from there to there. Like, why do you think it went like that? And I literally, like, I'm going to London on, where I said, to meet a friend of mine. I'm so excited. Like, she was like my high school ride or die that I lost touch with and I haven't seen her for like 20 years. And literally, even though we've spoken online and stuff since then, and she sent me a message saying, Wednesday, 2:00, Globe, yeah? And I was like, oh, which one are we seeing? And she went, the one you didn't read at school. I'm like, oh, as you like it. And I'm like, see, she understands me. That didn't need a whole lot of conversations. Like, give me the basic information. This time, be here. Don't give me lots of information. Because that's the thing I realized was a dyslexic trait that I'd never noticed before. If you give me lots of information all at once. But even written as well, my brain just shuts down. Like, I really like to cook, but if you give me a recipe book and it says, do this, do this, do this, do this, I'm like, do that. What am I doing? Do that. What am I doing? Okay, what am I? Whereas if you give me the ingredients list in the picture, I can go, okay, got it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All the bits in between.
We should write a cookbook for dyslexics.
Just has pictures and ingredients list.
Yes, that would be so incredible. I just was talking to my kids yesterday because I bought what I thought were coasters for my living room table. I didn't read what they were because I very often don't read the labels on things. And so I got them home and I went to untie the label and I decided to look at the label, and turns out they're appetizer plates, not coasters.
I do that all the time. It's the dimension things, because numbers don't mean anything to me. Like, I genuinely think, and this is before I knew that I had all these wonderful abilities. I was moving into a house with a friend, and I said, oh, I found this amazing deal on eBay. I've got all the furniture for the lounge. I was like, I've got a sofa and 2 armchairs and a coffee table and a lamp. And I'm like, and it was like 20 quid. I'm like, it was amazing. I'm like, I'll stay home all day to wait for it to turn up. It was doll's house furniture. I waited all day on, they didn't come. At some point I opened the door and there was this tiny little package like this, and as soon as I opened it I was like, I'm never going to hear the end of this. Never. And I remember buying like Tupperware containers online that I thought were like this big to put all my food in, and when they came they were like this big. It's like, yeah, that's not going to help. So yeah, that's one of those wonderful things we do.
That's so funny. Julie, it has been such a joy talking to you. I definitely want to do this.
Thing behind you, such a joy.
Well, I will make it say that next time we talk. So tell us, how can we get healing with you? I didn't say that. Right.
I didn't get to the full moon. You see the short-term memory stuff. So yes, what I was going to say, one of the things I noticed, especially us people with disabilities, so especially dyspraxia. So when I did my healer training, dyspraxia was described to me as quite often, because we are sentient beings and souls in a body, that some of us have such a connection to that spiritual side that we kind of forget that we're in a body. So we forget how to be in it. And that's when you get what we call clumsy. So if you think it's a child that's had a growth spurt, and like 1 week they can walk under a counter and the next week it's like, bang, they walk into it. It's almost like that with our bodies. And that's why we like need to be more grounded. And around the full moon, where sort of like the veil between spirit and this world is much thinner, I find that I'm excessively more clumsy, for want of a better word. And that's when I know that I have to ground myself. So I did a live on my Facebook like last week, I think, where I took you through an episode. What's what I'm looking for? Exercise. There you go. If you didn't know I was dyslexic, you do now. An exercise we can just ground yourself. So I do group full moon healings every month. I do them on YouTube for various reasons, but that's actually the easiest place for me to do it. And I do have some ability, not this month, but maybe next month, for one-to-one clients. And I'm working on a group program that I'll be launching later in the year. I did a test run. I did a test run that I thought was a few months ago, and then I was going to do it again. And the other day in my Facebook memories, one of my reviews popped up, and I was like, oh, that ended a year ago. I'm not sure how that happened. I was going to run that every 3 months. But I do group healing sessions as well. I do lots of free support and meditations and stuff on Facebook. So you have my name. I'm literally the only Julie Lachtay in the world, because my dad made up my name. Story for another day. So I'm very, very easy to find. And I have a YouTube channel, also very excitingly named Julie Lachtay. And there are guided healing meditations and recorded healings on there. But Facebook's generally the easiest place to find me. It's like my second home, because I spent most of my time traveling. It looks like my account's quite new, so people think it's a kind of spammy fake account. It's not, because I'm very proud to say I told so much truth that I got banished from Facebook. And it took me 6 months to get my account back. So I've only been back in the world of the Book of Face for 6 months. But I'm very proud of this.
That's awesome. And so with the group healing, how do people individualize their healing process in a group setting?
Well, see, the wonderful thing about energy healing is that like attracts like. So you'll all come into it with similar things. So fundamentally, their thing is that they're all scared of water. They might have very different reasons. So the first person might be scared of water because they fell in a pool and got scared when they were a child. You know, another person might be scared of water because, you know, maybe someone held their head underwater to punish them for something. Another person might be scared of water because maybe someone put them in a bath when they were really small and the water was too hot. What will come up in a group session is all the things and the beliefs that are under that I can clear and release for them, so they won't be scared of water. And then what I generally do in my group program sessions is that once a month, each person gets a private one-to-one session with me as well to clear up anything that's particular for them. But generally, we all have the same kind of beliefs that trip us up that need to be cleared. So yeah, with a group healing, if I know like this many people in the group, and whether you join live or not, if I know you're coming, you are included in that space. So I tune into the energy of everyone. And then I am shown, like, through creator, through divine source, God, whatever you want to call that is. And I know how crazy that sounds. I am shown what it is that needs to be looked at and cleared and released. And I think there is actually a really old full moon session I did a couple of years ago that's on my YouTube channel. If anyone wants to go and look at that and experience that, because it's an old one, so it's up there. It's free. They're generally not. All the healings on my YouTube channel that you can find are free. The ones that I do that are paid on there are unlisted, so only clients can find them.
Awesome.
But yeah, the group stuff's often very powerful because it's that thing. I think especially if you're blessed with differences like we are, it's so easy to get into that space of, oh, it's only me. It's just me. No one has that. It's only me. And when you're in a group and someone says something, you go, oh yeah, I have that. Oh, I have that. And so people, you're definitely not. It's definitely never you. And I think one of the things I'm really keen on that I teach all my clients and the children that I work with is that stop being in your wrongness and move into your rightness. And you think, we're so often told, what's wrong with you? Why did you do that? That's wrong. And go into, well, what's right about me? Just because I'm different, it's not wrong. And there's an amazing question that you can use. It's actually an access tool. And you can simply ask, you ask the universe, you don't try and answer it. And you simply ask, what's right about me that I'm not seeing? Or what's right about this that I haven't seen yet? And you just allow the universe to like bring things up and show you. And then you go, oh, okay, that's why.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Because there is nothing wrong with you. You're not the only one. And, you know, you can do anything.
So in closing, do you have any advice for people who are just finding out they're dyslexic, or parents who have children who are dyslexic? Like
parents, celebrate your children. Don't for 1 minute go into that space of thinking there's something wrong with them. They can't write, they can't spell, they can't do this. Like, everything is figure outable. Like, please don't think there's anything wrong with your children and don't treat them like that. You know, I think, you know, a good teacher will teach your child the way they need to teach. Not, you know, like, it's the child's job.
Well, that's what my tutoring program is all about, is we are good teachers who teach our students the way they're meant to be taught.
Exactly. We all learn different ways. It doesn't mean we learn the wrong way. It doesn't mean we're not able to be taught things. And yeah, there are some things that we're not able to learn, but so what? We can get other people to do those things for us later in life. It doesn't matter. With adults, I would say, again, stay in your rightness. Don't go into that, what's wrong with me. Embrace the fact that there is no one else like you. I know everyone says that, but you can have 10 people in a room with dyslexia and they'll all be completely different. They'll all have different skills. And I genuinely believe that we are all created to be the perfect contribution to the world that the world needs from us. And I guarantee there is something that you can do that no one else can do the way you do it. And there is someone out there who is really struggling, and 1,000 other people can try and teach that person that thing or explain it. And they'll have that no idea look, and you will explain it and their light will go on and they'll get it, because that is why you're here. And if you weren't here to teach that, you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't have whatever is inside you that you have. So it truly is a blessing. And you know, it needs to be embraced and celebrated, because I really believe that we are a magical contribution to the world, and we need to start owning that and showing up rather than apologizing and hiding. Because the neurotypicals have been running the world for centuries, and look at the state of it. Quite frankly.
Good point. And on that note,
we need dyslexic women and the world will be safe.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun. Thank you for having me.